So I drew 10 big squares on that poster board and I laid it out to my wife, and I was like, babe, I know what I'm going to do. And she's like, all right, well, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to become a real estate investor. And to me, it was bold just to say it, because I thought she was going to crack up laughing at me. She was like, what are you talking about, real estate investor? And she saw how my eBay little thing went, which is not good. So she probably had zero confidence in me, but she kind of put on a good front at least. She's like, oh, you can totally do it. I believe in you. How are you going to do that? And she's always been supportive. So I told her I was going to buy these 10 rental properties. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I told her I was going to make it happen. I put that poster board on the wall of our apartment, and every time I bought one, I colored it in, like, filled in with black mark Sharpie or whatever.
All right, Brant, welcome to the show, bro.
Thanks for having me on, brother. I appreciate it.
My man. I'm excited for today's episode, bro.
I'm excited too.
Dude, you are definitely somebody that I look up to in the real estate space, man. Been following you for quite some time now. I think we first connected back in like 2015.
I remember you private messaged me or something like that on Facebook or something like that. I think you had just came into Houston. Remember that?
Way back when, bro. I didn't know anybody. I was actually, it's funny you just brought that up, man, because last night I was thinking, like, it's always nerve-wracking for people when they move to a new city. So they don't know anybody. They don't have roots there. They don't have family there. And when I first moved to Houston, I just had an open mind, but I really didn't know what to expect. But when I started putting myself out there, Houston has to be one of the most welcoming cities. Like, I don't know if it's just a real estate community or if it's just a Houston, just the Texas culture. But, I made friends with a lot of people, man. It was all love. I can't complain.
So, I cried when I moved to Houston.
Why's that?
I was very depressed. Well, this has started somewhere, right?
That's it, brother.
Yeah, man. So I know we were talking before the show. We're going to talk about. We can get into this. This is like my high school story. You want to talk about that later? You want to talk about that now?
Let's get into that in a little bit.
All right, let's do that. Let's just set that up there for the viewers. That when I came to Houston, I cried.
We got a crazy story on the way.
I'll talk about that later.
Okay. All right. I love it. So, Brant, man, I know what your main business model is, just from following you on Instagram and on Facebook. But for the listeners that aren't familiar with your work, would you mind to just give us like a brief overview?
And I think you and I are a lot alike, probably a lot of listeners. I'm just a real estate entrepreneur and serial entrepreneur, which is sometimes good, sometimes not good. So primarily though, it's all in the world of real estate. I started, 13 years ago buying rental properties, and I've been focusing primarily 80-20 rule. 80% of everything we do is just focus on single family homes. We flip a lot, we rent a lot, we do owner financing, do all kinds of stuff like that. And that just morphed into, I had about 25 rental properties in my first couple of years. And then I learned about flipping, and I went down that rabbit hole, and I'm still there. And then we launched a construction division, because as I built out my systems and my teams, I said, I might as well try to make a buck on this as well. And people started asking me to do that. So we launched a construction division. Then people started asking me to speak. I wrote a book years ago and started really enjoying teaching and coaching. So we added that additional, business or division into what we do. And, and that's what we do. I'm all about making money in the world of real estate, helping others do the same. And, we've done so much. We have a commercial property we've bought in the last 2 years. We've bought a mobile home park. We bought an RV park. We just bought a 51 lot subdivision that I'm super excited about. We're really converting this distressed piece of land that was called a subdivision, but is basically vacant, into an affordable housing community. And that project's going really, really well. And we're in the process of creating a fund to do an additional development from the ground up to do somewhere between 100 to 150 manufactured homes. Basically, it's like a mobile home. Sounds better if you say manufactured home on a half-acre lot, rather than putting, these homes packed in together like at a mobile home park. We're putting a nice double-wide trailer on a half-acre lot, and at a very affordable price. If you want to go into, any major city now, you're looking at $250,000, $300,000 to buy just a basic cookie cutter home. And so what we're doing is giving people opportunity for home ownership with this model, but not all sandwiched in. Like, they're getting a nice half-acre lot, a home they can call their own. And that's what I've been, my core focus is on right now, but we're still buying houses and doing that kind of residential investing. Got the team built out, and they're doing their thing while it's allowing me to focus on some other things as well.
The manufactured homes down in Florida, they're everywhere. I mean, tens of thousands. You have these communities, they make these gated communities on the golf course with the manufactured homes. I don't know too much about them, but I know that they're permanent. Like, you don't just move them.
They're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
They're not going anywhere.
They have garages, right? Like, you wouldn't know that it wasn't, a real house. Well, it is a real house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, and then, so you just pay the lot fee. And,
yes.
Yeah. Go ahead.
There's a couple models, and then, getting into this call, that's one thing with me. It's like, I've been in this business a long time. You've been in this business a long time. We've seen people come and go, and they don't stick. It's not, they don't have a sustainable model, or they're not able to pivot. And for me, this has been happening for 12 years now, where the market has consistently gone up each and every year since it hit the bottom, like 2009. It's gone up every year, and every year real estate goes up. You get more people that like real estate, more buyers come into the market. So it's been, we're full on, seller's market with a ton of buyers, little inventory. So it's been harder and harder to buy like good deals each and every year for the last 3 or 4 years. So I had a friend of mine who was just kind of playing around with mobile home park model for a while, and he turned me on to it. But honestly, I didn't think it was that great. I thought he was kind of a redneck, and I'm like, all right, man, that's cool. You do your mobile home thing, man. And then he started talking to me. I'm like, tell me your numbers. Like, he told me about this deal, and my jaw pretty much dropped on the numbers on this deal. And that was a mobile home a mobile home on land. He bought it at a tax auction for like $20,000, put like a $15,000 or $20,000 home on it, and sold it for like $85,000 or $95,000. Owner financing, 10% interest. They ended up defaulting like a year or two later after putting down $10,000, and he resold it, got $10,000, sold it for like $100,000. He's in this thing for $40,000. 10% interest. I'm like, man, that's better. That's better than my single family home deals I'm doing. So I began researching, and 2 things really jumped out at me. So number one, Warren Buffett owns 21st Century Mortgage, which is the number one financing company in mobile homes. And he also owns Clayton Homes, the number one manufacturer of mobile homes. So I'm like, And then number 2 was Sam Zell, like the greatest real estate investor developer of all time, is the number one owner of mobile home parks in the country. And so I read Sam's book. And so Sam kind of stumbled upon mobile home parks like way back in the day. It's an interesting story. They were in the process of buying some, multi-hundred, $200 or $300 million companies, something like that. And they're going through their balance sheet, and they had they owned a mobile home park. And so Sam told one of his guys, he said, hey, I need you to go take a look at this park and figure out what we got to do to get rid of it. Like, we don't want a mobile home park. So he sent one of his guys down to take a look at the park, look at financials, yada, yada, yada. And he came back. He's like, Sam, you got to look at this thing. He's like, is it worse than we thought? He's like, no, I've never seen anything like it. It's a cash cow. So fast forward to today, this is very interesting. And I'm giving all my kind of my quote unquote secrets. But this is why I got so excited about it was since then. So Sam has become the number one owner, their company of mobile home parks in the country. Very, very interesting. They have over the years, they've sold off 50, 60% of their portfolio with commercial, with multifamily, other asset classes. They have never sold a mobile home park.
Wow.
It's pretty interesting. So I read that and I'm a very type A kind of guy. I'm like, let me just go get my hands dirty. So we bought a RV park last year. We bought a mobile home park last year. And I'm going after it, man. I'm like, I'm letting these folks, fight over their single family homes, and we're fighting for them too. I mean, my acquisitions guys out there hitting the streets, and we're fighting for those. But at the same time, I'm over here with very little to no competition. So that's what I'm doing.
I love it, man. You gotta play ball in the clear blue waters, right? Because right now, the sharks are out there. It's bloody, man.
It's bloody. Blue ocean strategy.
That's it, brother.
Right.
I was talking to my contractor yesterday, and I was reminiscing about the $50,000-$60,000 houses I was buying up like crazy back in 2015, 2016. And houses on those same blocks, not even 2-3 years later, are selling for 90, 100, 110. It's like, man, who's, who, and people are buying them.
They're buying them.
I guess, everybody wants to be a landlord now.
Dude, I don't know. They're paying full market price. And, that's Buffett says when everybody's going left, you go right, or whatever. Everybody's going in, you go out. So we're very conservative right now. We're still buying, but we're just very, very conservative.
So, Brant, you're killing in the real estate space, right? Been in the game for, you said 13 years?
Bought my first house January 2007 with a credit card.
I got to hear about that story.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that high school era, right? First off, where'd you grow up?
Yeah, man. Appreciate you too, man. I love telling my story. I love hearing people's stories. So I grew up in Dallas. Kind of a outskirts, rural area of Dallas. That's where I grew up. Great childhood, stuff like that. And I was in middle school, and my dad lost his job. He was in oil and gas kind of stuff, and he had had times where he lost his job. But this was a Black Friday oil crash, whatever, in the 80s, and lost his job for a long period of time. My parents lost everything. So I saw them go through that like a year and a half. Bankruptcy, foreclosure, lost our house. You're a lot younger than me. You remember those jams? There was these shorts. They were called jams. Probably before your time. I don't know how much older I am than you, but there were these things. You can Google them. They're called jams. They're like these beach.
Let me see. How do you, is it spelled JAMS?
JAMS shorts.
Let me see.
Anyways, they're just like these shorts, and this is what sticks out of my mind, right? So everyone had these jams. Yeah, they had all kinds of different colors. Well, we were in a position where I had homemade jams, if that paints a little picture.
Okay.
But man, honestly, I had a great childhood, all that kind of stuff. And then that was kind of a rough spat. There you go.
Bro, I can't picture you rocking some of these, man.
Man. So I remember my mom made me some homemade jams, man. And so my dad later got a job in Houston, and we drove down to Houston, moved to A-Leaf, and I came down here, And the first night, dude, I just remember crying because I missed all my friends. I'm in this big city now, and it was just like that was my first experience in Houston. But I went to A-Leaf, Elsac High School.
Wait,
and that was
you moved to A-Leaf?
Yeah, I moved to A-Leaf, man.
Brant, you grew up in the hood, man?
It was culture shock for me, man. It was kind of culture shock for me.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, A-Leaf, there's some rough patches.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad, but it wasn't that good. It was. Yeah, so that's the high school years, man.
So you moved to Houston, right? You cried because you missed everybody back home.
Yeah, I miss my friends. We didn't have the internet and cell phones, and I tell my kids, it was making a phone call was long distance. My kids didn't know what that meant, and I'm like, man, I had a couple of like real tight friends. I'm actually to this day my best friend. Like we're childhood friends, right? We're best man at each other's weddings. We had to like write some letters to each other. Hey, man, what's going on? This is what we're doing. Like actually write out a letter. Like that's just foreign for some people to even think about it. But that was how I got to Houston, and here we are.
Times have changed, man.
Times have changed, man.
You see 5-year-olds nowadays working iPads, iPhones, no problem.
Dude, my 4, he's 5 now. He was 3 or 4. He taught his grandmother how to use an iPad. He's like, here, grandma.
It's unbelievable. I don't know, man. I guess, a lot of people have different views and opinions on the current state of childhood. But like when I grew up, I was born in 90. I just turned 30. When I grew up, we were all about riding bikes to each other's houses, manhunt, freeze tag. Like we just wanted to be outside as much as possible. Yeah. We weren't worried about TV, watching shows. Like we just wanted to be outside playing until it got dark out.
That's what we did, man. It was
different times now.
Yeah, we lived in the same house. I had these 3 like best friends. There's 4 of us, and we played. This kind of the childhood I had was like appreciate my parents so much because they gave me a great childhood. We had 4 of us. We were on the same soccer team, the same baseball team, and the same football team. Like going to first grade, first, second, third, fourth, fifth. We did all that stuff together. Parents carpool. Like we're like this. We had these woods. Dude, we used to go out in the woods with bikes, 4-wheelers. We had BB gun wars. We go shoot each other with BB guns. And one time this dude got a BB stuck in his ear and it went all the way around. We had to push the thing out. So we just did stuff like that. And then, I moved to Houston. It was a little bit of culture shock is what it is. Man, it's a different day and age for sure. It's pretty much wake up, eat some breakfast, and my parents would like just be home before dark because I'd maybe be at a friend's house, we'd grab lunch, maybe we'd stop at mine, just be home before dark. We'd be out for 12 hours some days. There was a lake, we'd go out in the lake. Dude, one time I got grounded. I didn't get grounded often. I was a pretty good kid, and this dude in our neighborhood built like this raft. That had like all the styrofoam. It was like a huckleberry fin like raft. And this is a big lake. It was called Lake Ray Hubbard. We were on the far east side, if people know where that's at. There's nobody out there back in the day. So we got on this thing after school. I was supposed to be grounded. I was supposed to come home right away. My mom had started working like some little part-time job. My dad got laid off. We got on this boat like, 3 o'clock. We started floating. Lake Ray Hubbard is big. Dude, we ended up like in the middle of the lake. And I'm like, dude, I'm grounded. I got to get home, man. My parents are going to kill me. So I hopped off this boat and I'm swimming back. I damn near drowned. I get home. It took like, I'm not even lying. I almost died in that lake. And so I get home and I'm like, just soaking wet. My mom's pulling up at the same time. The sun's going down. These kids ended up like 2 cities over, drifting on that boat. They got home like at 8 o'clock at night. But yeah, man, my childhood is so much different in a lot of ways than my kids, but it's what it is.
It is what it is, brother. Generations always change, right? Yeah. Who knows what's going to happen 100 years from now,
Yeah.
right? People will look at, like, it scares me to think that people are going to look at this iPhone one day and say, you guys used to use that thing? How did you live with this? It's just scary to think about, man.
My kids don't understand that I didn't have a cell phone when I was a kid. Like, that came up the other day with my 5-year-old, and then my oldest kid, he says this every now and then. I'll talk about something, I'll reference something, and he'll ask me, he'll say, Dad, did y'all have this? Did y'all have these in the 19s? You talk about making you feel old. Like, did y'all have these in the 19s, Dad? Did these exist in the 19s?
That's hilarious, man. I saw this funny meme on TikTok where this guy asked this guy his birthday, and he goes 2000 and the guy like goes into a shock, and he's like, and there's more, and oh man. So Brent, let me ask you this, man. You went to high school, you said in A-Leaf. Was school easy for you? Did you like school? Did you do good in school? Tell us about that.
No, didn't do good in school. Solid C student. In school, just did enough to get by. Was not going to go to college. Like, no one in my family went to college. That conversation never really came up. Hated school. Graduated. Like, I played football, and I had a good time and had fun, had my buddies, but no, like, schoolwork was not something.
What did you hate about school?
Oh man, I wasn't just like, I wasn't. I didn't know what I wanted to do in life, first off, so I didn't see the purpose of it. I was more. I wanted to play. I want to play football and want to have fun with my friends. And also, I just wasn't a very intelligent kid, to be honest with you, man, because I just had no direction. And so much so, I just wanted to get. I told you when I came here, I missed my friends, missed my childhood, and I came here my freshman year of high school. So I pretty much had my sight focused on getting back to Dallas, and I graduated high school, and it was kind of cool. I graduated high school, and my friend had driven down and surprised my best friend, and I moved to Dallas the next day. I told my parents, like, hey, I'm gonna go move back to Dallas. So I moved back to Dallas, no plans, just like, I'm gonna figure out life. And me and my buddy, he was the same way. He barely got out of high school, and we both got a job working this warehouse. And dude, it sucked, man. It was hard work, 10-hour days at least. Hot summer, loading warehouses for this. It's called Eckerd Drugs, like CVS. And that was my first introduction to like the real life. So.
And you were what, 17, 18 at the time?
Yeah, I was 18.
18, moved out at 18 years old. Wow. That's a bold move. Definitely how did you get
it didn't last long though.
Did you get an apartment, or were you staying with your buddy, or?
No, my buddy, his parents had like a little room in the back of their house.
Okay.
So they let us stay in that. And so I stayed there, and we were on the verge of getting an apartment. And so my buddy's friend, my buddy's dad was, he's a pretty big role model for me growing up, because he was an entrepreneur. He had a construction company, and I think back about it, he's probably one of the reasons I got real estate, because he was very successful. And I mean, we all watched his dad create success. And he started as a paint contractor, and then he started, buying some real estate, buying rental properties and stuff like that. He took good care of himself. Like, he was hitting the gym, so he was in good shape. Just lived differently than I saw, and I love and appreciate my dad, but just different. And, they would go take a lot of vacations and trips, and they took me on several of them, man. And I just, so much respect for this man. And I remember he used to take us on like Saturday mornings. I'd spend the night over there. This is when I was a kid. He'd wake us up like 6 a.m. We'd go drive through Jack in the Box. We'd drive into town, is basically living on the outskirts of town. We drive into the city in Dallas. He gets Jack in the Box. He was going to check on properties, walking projects. So we're sitting in there vacant houses under rehab, just being kids and walking these houses. And so then I had like amazing respect for his father, and he fortunately passed away a couple of years ago. But that kind of always set with me, and they had a real great relationship. So they pretty much took me in like a kid. So we came up there, lived in the back of their house, but me and him were planning on getting an apartment. And we worked this job. I don't know, working it 5-6 months. And we were both like, dude, this sucks, man. Like, we're trying to figure out what we're going to do. We started, starting to look for another job. He took a job with his dad. And I was like, man, what am I going to do? So I kind of tucked my tail between my legs and asked my parents if I could come back home and figure things out. They said yes, of course. My parents were great. And so I came back home and I enrolled in HCJC, WCJC, Wharton County Junior College. I did not go to HCC. I went to Wharton County, and I went to college, man. And I worked and went to college. I worked at Academy, sporting goods locally. And I went to college, ended up going to Sam Houston State up there in Huntsville. Stayed a couple of years in at College Station and got my degree. And I did pretty well. You asked how I did in high school. Not good. College, I did very, very well. I still went out a lot.
What did you What did you major in?
Criminal justice. So I majored in criminal justice. I began wanting to learn. That's all. I began just not like I would do whatever classwork I do, but I began reading books and having that warehouse job really scared me. Also, it shook me up because I was looking at dudes who were, 30s and 40s, and I'm like, man, these guys they ain't making nothing. They had no future. And you could kind of see. I remember looking at, getting to know some of these guys. There was no life in their eyes, right? They were just pretty much like zombies. There's like a lot of people were like zombies. So I majored in criminal justice. I still didn't know what I wanted to do. But I was interested in like law enforcement and that kind of stuff. So it was honestly the only thing that interests me. I'm like, well, Sam Houston had a great criminal justice program, like top in the nation. I'm like, I'll study that. So I studied that, graduated college, went into law enforcement. A lot of people know that about me. I was in law enforcement and was in there 7 years. I won't get into all those stories, man. I could tell all kind of stories, but the reason I left law enforcement was because of the politics, and it was just a depressing job, man. And not even depressing what I dealt with. It was depressing like my coworkers, meaning they were like zombies too, man. And I remember I was there and I was talking about, all my friends. I had like so many good friends and still do to this day. But I remember people used to bitch and complain and moan about whatever, like every day they were bitching and moaning and complaining about something. And then they used to always talk about retirement. Like people were always counting down their years till they retire. They'd be bitching about something. I only got 10 more years. I got 8 more years, 5 more years, 12 more years. And I'm thinking to myself, that's a long ass time. Like, you don't have to be here. And then I started like telling them, like, you're not in behind bars. You can leave. And then I started telling myself that. And there's just so many politics. And I'm like, I'm not going to fight this fight. I got better things to do in my life. And so I left, quit my job, quit law enforcement, it was right after I had my first son. So I was working weekends, nights, holidays, that kind of stuff. So, and I just didn't want to do it anymore. So I'm like, all right, been there, done that. And I was thinking about doing all this federal stuff and doing that. But once I had my wife and my son, I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. So I went to corporate world. This is probably the story I share the most. I went into the corporate world, got this job, and which didn't want to do, but I wanted to do it. It was the best thing for my family. I came home the first day. I remember like it was yesterday. My wife was all excited. Babe, how was it? How was your first day? Tell me all about it. And I remember looking at her and I'm like, how was it? I think I hate everything about it, to be honest, like everything about it. And I told her, I was like, hey, don't worry. I'm not going to quit. I'm going to provide for the family, but I'm going to figure something else out because I could tell I was in the same situation, man. All these people putting on their fake smiles and their suit and ties, but behind the scenes, behind their closed doors, they were not happy. This was not something I was going to do, spend the rest of 20, 30, 40 years of my life. So I didn't know what I was going to do. I started a little eBay business and didn't make any money. I tried to just start figuring out, going to Barnes and Nobles, going to the bookstore, and like everybody else. It took me a couple years. Then, of course, read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Someone else kind of steered me in the direction of real estate. And that's when I picked up, Robert Kiyosaki, and the light bulb just went off. I'm like, oh, I can do this. And I remember, I said I bought my first house with a credit card. I tell everybody, we hear people all the time say, man, I want to get in real estate and just like saving up some money, or they're giving you excuses why they're not starting. And when I started, I didn't have any money. We lived in an apartment. We went through the Dave Ramsey thing, like financial freedom, a couple of years before that. So we were doing that. We had no financial education. So we paid off our student loans, paid off our credit cards, because that's what Dave Ramsey said to do. And then that world collided with what Robert Kiyosaki said to do. That's why I learned Dave Ramsey was great. I got rid of my bad debt because I learned about good debt. And so it was 2007, into 2006, I started kind of working on my plan. And I told my wife I read Tony Robbins too, man. I started reading all these kind of personal development books and real estate books, and I was having these ideas come to me that I never had before, and believing that I could do something that was just new to me. And I remember I read this Unlimited Power book by Tony Robbins. It's like, holy cow, man! I never heard about a vision board and all, having these big thoughts and doing all this kind of stuff. So I went to like a Walgreens or some drugstore, and I remember I bought a poster board, and I told myself I was going to buy 10 rental properties that year. And this is like broke, live in an apartment, we had no money, and so I drew 10 big squares on that poster board. And I laid it out to my wife, and I was like, babe, I know what I'm going to do. And she's like, all right, well, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to become a real estate investor. And to me, it was bold just to say it, because I thought she was going to crack up laughing at me. She was like, what are you talking about, real estate investor? And she saw how my eBay little thing went, which is not good. So she probably had zero confidence in me, but she kind of put on a good front at least. She's like, oh, you can totally do it. I believe in you. How are you going to do that? And she's always been supportive. So I told her I was going to buy these 10 rental properties. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I told her I was going to make it happen. I put that poster board on the wall of our apartment, and every time I bought one, I colored it in, filled in with black mark Sharpie or whatever. So that's when people say, man, I'm waiting until I get this money, or I do this or do that. And I'm like, man, I didn't have any money. That's the reason I got into real estate, because I read all these books that you can do creative deals. Like you could trade basically your time and your energy and your hustle to do deals, man. And that's what drew me to real estate, because it gave guys like me a shot, because I didn't have any money. I had no, my mom and dad didn't have any money to give me. So that wasn't going to happen unless I just made it happen myself. And, dude, that's where that's where the grind began, man, really in 2007. And it was just like I became obsessed with it.
Wow, bro. A lot going on there, man.
Yeah.
A lot going on. What were you selling on eBay, by the way? I'm curious.
Dude, I don't even want to tell you, man.
Sex toys?
No.
I mean, it's a big business, bro. I ain't mad at you.
No. You wouldn't know. So my wife was a hairstylist, and so my wife was a hairstylist. Her mom, her sister were all in that industry. So we went to a trade show in Las Vegas one year, and they were selling all this stuff for that industry. So I bought a bunch of jewelry, like just like cheap jewelry, and these things called tan towels. Like you could just wipe it on you and you would be tan. And so I've never really been tan in my life. So I'm like, dang, that seems like that's going to be amazing product. And so it's easy to ship. So I did this. I bought like some bad jewelry and tried to sell that. But these tan towels was what was my product.
A tan towel. I've heard of tanning spray. I've never heard of a tanning towel.
It's like a baby wipe, man. It was like,
that's hilarious.
No, I was using them, man. I was stealing from the inventory. I'm like, at least I have a tan, man. You can't stay in business,
man. And you were doing e-commerce before e-commerce was what it is now.
Yeah, the funny thing, man, I bet a lot of people don't even know about this. So I started looking at franchises. I'm like, all right, maybe I can get a loan. I had good credit. I'm like, maybe I can get a loan. I'll buy a franchise. They had these eBay business franchises popping up all over the place.
I remember.
I don't know if you remember that. You remember that?
the sell your stuff in the eBay store.
Yeah, they're kind of like all these CBD places popping up all over the place. There were these eBay franchises. There was like 5 or 6 of them. And I'm like, man, this is the greatest idea ever. Just bring it to me. We charge we like 20% markup off the top. So I looked at doing that. That would have been a huge mistake.
Yeah, those things are gone nowadays. Those aren't a thing.
Gone.
Yeah,
100%.
Came and gone.
You can do that with your phone now. And then I forgot to mention when I got real burned out in law enforcement, I saw this thing, you could get a scholarship. So I applied for law school and I didn't get in. And thank God. So I went down that path. I was going to get into law school. I did pretty good in the LSAT and whatnot, but I didn't get in. So
why didn't you get in? I'm just curious.
I don't really know. I had 2 friends. I applied 2 schools here in Houston. We have a friend, a husband and wife attorneys, and I had a better score than one of them. And I didn't take the prep tests and all that. Just and I did pretty good though. I studied for it, and I don't know why I didn't get in. They're like, "You're a shoo-in. You're in law enforcement, all this kind of stuff."
Yeah.
They told me no. I didn't fight it. I'm like, whatever. I'm meant to be. Yeah, man. So that was how it all got started, and I just went full force into real estate.
I love it, bro. I do have a couple of follow-up questions for you throughout everything you just shared with us, man. And by the way, really appreciate you sharing that come up, man. It's super relatable. And, it's interesting to me that you left a career in law enforcement after 7 years of putting in time. Because there's somebody listening right now that have been working at their job and they're just not happy. But they're afraid to move into a different area, a different field. Especially being, in the law enforcement space. Law enforcement comes with benefits, pension, right? Retire after, it's 20 years?
It's changing a lot now, but yeah, that's what it used to be.
Yeah. I mean, some people get into law enforcement and they're thinking, hey, I'm set, right? I'm going to put in my time and I'm set. I get full coverage and everything. And to just leave that, I mean, that's a pretty bold move. And, I'm just curious, man, to know like what was kind of going through your mind to just walk away after 7 years of, dedicating yourself to something.
The family was a big thing. I'm a big like energy guy, like I just want to follow my heart. But what had happened, man, was I had I had the degree in criminal justice. There was promotion. They were promoting for lieutenants, and I was a sergeant. They were having promotions for lieutenants in my department, and I scored top on the test, top on the PT test, like running push-ups, sit-ups, all that kind of stuff, attendance awards, da 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 da. And they didn't have lieutenants promotions every year, and yeah. So long story short, I got passed up for the lieutenant promotion, and everybody there were like, "All right, we know Phillips is getting one of the 5. Who's getting the other 4?" And I got passed up as new chief, and that's what I was talking about politics. Like people got promoted that didn't even pass the test, so didn't even have degrees, much as criminal justice degrees. So it was politics, and I'm not going to get into why all this stuff happened, but I'm like, all right, whatever. And but that really, honestly, like that really pissed me off because I'm like, man, I can go fight this, and I could have fought it. Like I talked to somebody like, man, you can fight this and challenge it, and I'm like, I want to do that. Then they had this other position open up that I was supposed to get. It was like a day job, and it was a desk job, but I just wanted to see my family, and I got picked for that job by the lieutenant who was over it, and politics once again. I was told the day before that I wasn't allowed to do it, and honestly, like the reason he gave me was the color of my skin, and he was like, if you repeat this to anybody, I'll call you, mother bleeping liar. I'll have your job, blah blah blah. And I'm like, who wants to work in that environment? And like I said, it wasn't my life's calling to expose, shady stuff and all that kind of stuff that's going on there. So I'm like, man, I'm just going to bounce. Like I literally put in my 2 weeks notice and I left.
Gotcha.
And then, went in the corporate world. Leaving law enforcement was not that hard for me. That was a depressing place, man. And it's not funny, but I went back to my department 3 times. And the reason why is because we had all of our children at the same hospital. And the hospital is like right by my PD. So every time we have a kid, I'd go in and say hi to these people. And I remember we had our first, I had my first child at the police department. We had our second child, and that was 3 years later. What's up, guys? How y'all doing? And same people, a little bit heavier, a little bit older, exactly the same. Man, you won't believe what's going on here. The bitching, moaning, only got 10 more years, man. I wish I'd have left. We had our next kid, right? 3 years later, went back. What's up, guys? Like saying hi to everybody, and a little bit older, probably a little bit more overweight, bitching, complaining about the same stuff. And I'm like, damn. And that was really eye-opening to me because I'm like, man, it's been 6 years now. And then I went back again, same stuff. And that's pretty much had been a decade. And these people, most of those people are still there. Some had died, some had moved, whatever. And so that for me was really easy. When it got hard was in corporate America because after I did my first year, I remember I started buying these rental properties. And to tell that story, what I did was I borrowed, like we got these credit card checks in the mail, and I borrowed $7,000 on one to buy a rental property from Net Worth Realty, which they were called RealNet back in the day. And it's funny, the guy I bought my first house from, I bought, 50 or 60 houses from them. His name was Manish. And he called me yesterday, but we're still friends to this day. He moved off to Atlanta, moving back. Anyways, I bought that property. I used that $7,000, got a hard money loan, bought that house, and got my contractors that did their things, like just on point, like managing my contractors, getting the house leased before my first payment was even due. And I did that kind of out of necessity because I needed that thing to be leased and positive cash flow. And so I went to my hard money lender. People like, how are you able to do that? I'm like, well, one, the market in 2007, granted, was different. But number two, so much of real estate is relationships. So I went to my hard money lender and I was like, hey man, what'd you think about my first deal? He's like, yeah, you guys did it quick. And, I was like, yep, already got it leased out, started my refinance already. Here we go. He's like, man, it's really good. I'm like, well, I want to do more deals. He's like, yeah, I'd love to work with you. I'm like, here's the deal, man. I don't have any more money. So what I negotiated with him was I got another one of those $7,000 checks at a $14,000 credit card. I said, I'm going to give you, I don't know if it was like a money order or whatever I did. It's like, I'm going to give you to hold. I'm like, if it's a good deal, can I get 100% financing? And so basically I had to sell myself and sell it hard. But basically what I worked out with him, that he was going to fund 100% of my deal. He's going to keep, that cashier's check or whatever. And then I had like 6 months to get refinanced. So long story short, and it took a lot of like jumping through hoops and doing all kinds of stuff, I was able to, buy those houses and get them all refinanced, because you could get 10 Fannie Mae loans back then. Absolutely, I know why the market crashed. And I didn't know anything about real estate. I was doing this, and I've got mortgage brokers asking me if I want cash back, and I'm like, for real? Like, you can do that? That didn't even seem right to me, and I didn't know what I was doing. And so I got those deals done. Boom, 10 rentals that first year. Then I moved into 2008. I couldn't get financing anymore, so I didn't know anything about private money. So I started putting together partnerships. Bought 10 more houses. So I got to the end of 2008. I had 20 something rentals. I told my wife I gotta quit my job, because I was, mainly working with wholesalers, buying those deals, managing contractors, leasing the properties myself, managing the properties myself. And I was working a demanding corporate job too, man. It was not easy.
And what industry, by the way? I'm curious.
Dude, I don't even like to talk about that, man.
Okay, all right, we don't have to. We don't have to,
dude. It's when I say corporate job, a lot, it depends on what audience I'm talking to. Sometimes I do that just so I don't get in the story. But there's this company called Ecolab.
Oh, I know Ecolab.
Yeah, so I hated that job, man. Because I was in sales, and so a lot of days I had to wear a tie and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
but I sold like Windex, glass cleaner, floor
cleaner. Oh yeah.
Laundry detergent, dishwasher, soap.
Dude, I worked in restaurants for like 10 years, so I used to see you guys coming in.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I keep a bottle in here. I got a bottle of glass cleaner just to remind me. And so, dude, I had to you know what I did? Like, I would go sell accounts, service accounts, and then the next minute I put on the slab coat and I'm on the ground working on 220 volt dishwasher motor that's
right
with, goop sloshing in my face, and it's 100 degrees outside. I go outside, I'm sweating balls, and I got to go do a sales call on another account. My phone's blowing up. I really didn't like that job, man. Like, honestly, I didn't like that job. But I was in sales, and I always finished number one or number two. And getting, like, I'm rambling a little bit, but then I came to the point where I had like 25 rentals, but it wasn't enough to pay my bills. These were fully leveraged houses. But I was like, I got to quit my job, because one, I was just working so much. I'd, work till 2 or 3 in the morning, get up at 6 and do the same thing again. And so I just told my wife, like, man, I'm just going to find a way. And so, some things popped up to me. Like, I never flipped a house before. This whole construction thing came about. I won't get into that story, but that took off. But right before I quit, I was getting my evaluation by my supervisor. She was pretty cool. She knew I had bought some rentals. I stopped telling people at my job after about 4 or 5 what I was doing. And we're doing my review, and she told me that I was about to be offered a promotion at the company like banquet thing the next week, and I was getting this award and blah 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 blah. She's like, you're awesome, you did great, you have anything for me? And that's why I had made up my mind I was going to quit that day. And I was nervous, man, because I had 2 kids, I had a kid on the way, medical, I had a company car. And I was like, yeah, I have something to tell you. I'm going to quit, so I'm not going to be at the banquet next weekend. And it was hilarious. She's like, damn, can you help me quit too? And I ended up So I ended up helping her do some deals, and I quit my job, but it was scary, man. Like I had the medical, I had the car, I wasn't making much money, but I had whatever 50, 60 grand, whatever I was making. It was enough to pay my bills, and to let all that go. What you got to do, man. It's either you want to settle for good or great. That's what, what all gets in the way of your greatness is just being comfortable, man. And I went all into it.
I love it, bro. And it's true. If you're not happy doing what you do every day, right, for work, you got to get out of it. You have to. I can relate to you, bro. I used to bartend. I hated it. I would show up to work angry. And I would take that out on customers. I'm like, these people ain't doing anything. I'm just miserable with my situation. Yep. And to any listeners out there right now that are feeling that type of way, just know, like, there's other methods out there, right? There's other methods out there. I tell Nicole all the time, if everything was to fail and my whole world collapsed, I could always go get a job. Yeah, always get a job. And you said you were in sales, man. It's one of the most powerful skill sets, right? If you can sell, you should never be broke, right? I'll say you can't be broke, but you should never be broke because there's always opportunities out there. Companies need sales guys, to generate revenues. So get your skills right. Brant, I want to switch gears here, man, because, obviously, bro, things worked out for you, man. And we've only been chatting for the last 45 minutes or so we can't cover everything. But I know, just like any entrepreneur, man, there had to be some rough patches in your journey in the real estate world and in business. What would you say is one of those moments that stands out that just was a huge challenge for you, where you're just like, oh, man, should I throw in the towel, or, what, this isn't going right, or, like the world's falling on you? Like, did you have any of those moments?
Yeah, man. So we started doing a lot of stuff, over in the Heights back in the day. And when the Heights are the Heights, and Heights are great in a lot of ways, but they're terrible in a lot of ways too. The Heights have wrecked a lot of real estate investors' dreams, to be quite honest with you. Mm-hmm. They've broke a lot of folks. So, man, I hit some rough patches whenever we got into some high-end deals, doing some new construction development, on $500,000 houses, flipping houses that were $600,000 or $700,000. And whenever oil and gas tanked, and that what I call luxury market really is even to this day, you get above $500,000. It's not as luxury as it used to be, but I was holding multiple properties, and I was cutting big checks. Most of those were with private lenders, but still I was cutting 10% checks on, $500,000 loans, $400,000 loans, and those houses weren't selling, man. And it was rough.
Why weren't they selling?
Dude, oil and gas.
When oil. I got you.
Yeah. That whole market just kind of tanked for a year to 2 years, something like that, completely almost.
This wasn't too long ago, right?
It was a while back. Yeah, it was like 2014 area, around that time, 2014, 2015. And our products too weren't that great. I mean, I've always been like a rent ready kind of guy, man. Like, paint everything beige, cheap flooring, cheap carpet, like just lipstick kind of rehabs on, $200,000 houses, $150,000 houses, like nice, but it's like we're not getting into this fancy kind of stuff. It just wasn't my thing. And so our products could have been better. They're good products, but man, you got a whole different clientele over there. So I learned some lessons, man. I took hits, took losses, and I had similar conversations with my wife too when it comes to like business and raising money. When I first started raising money, I remember like one day I told my wife, like, man, I gotta a new private lender. They want to invest with us. And she was like, man, that's great. That's awesome. But I felt like the weight of the world on my shoulders. And I remember telling her, I'm like, and babe, if anything happens, my lenders got to get paid. They're going to get paid no matter what. This is their retirement money. This is their nest egg. They're trusting me. And so, man, when it comes up, like, like what am I proud of? Well, I'm proud not just that I didn't give up, because, man, it's easy to give up because business is hard, right? Mm-hmm. Like, there's a reason 9 out of 10 businesses fail or whatever, because it's not easy. It's not for everybody. But I always performed on all of my loans, all of my notes, all of my commitments with my lenders. I performed, man, and just like I figured things out. And because there have been rough patches, man, 100%. There's been rough patches.
Brant, what would you say is your biggest fear?
Oh man, like in real estate or life?
In life, bro. Just biggest fear in life.
I don't know, man. As much as I work, and I don't know, man, maybe it's a fear of failure. I don't do the whole public speaking thing as the greatest fear. Man, I'd have to think about that. It's a good question. I honestly don't know what my greatest fear is. I guess I'd have to say something pertaining to my wife or kids, something happening to them, something, anything bad happening to them, or God forbid, losing one of them. That would be my biggest fear.
I feel that, man. If you could take a look at the last portion of your life, personal, business, is there any one thing that you regret?
Well, I'll tell you, and you knew me at this time, where I went through a real down patch of life, not so much business. When we were really cranking things up back in the day, when I had like first time I had everybody on the team, multiple acquisitions agents, realtor, admin, team of VAs. We actually had an office in the Philippines just for our VAs, a bookkeeping person, a marketing, like I had all these people. We hit the Inc. 5000 list, and we're blowing and going. Have my, a book out, going on the news, and I was on the verge of divorce. And that's when I had reached like, hey, I'm successful, making all this money. Life's supposed to be great. And dude, if anybody's listening to this, like, money it's going to fill one gap, right? Like a financial gap in your life. There's things you can do with it, but it is not going to fill all voids in your life. So that's where I say I became a one-dimensional douchebag, right? And I had there's 2 or 3 years of my life where I just got so focused on business, I began neglecting relationship with my wife, even with my kids to a certain extent, and in my body. I was drinking a lot, and I was just like focused on success, and that was it became a real dark. It was my low point in business, and dude, we all get to look in that mirror every single day, man. I just figure, I'm like, what am I going to do here? And I had to, we rehab houses. I had to rehab me. And so I went on this, kind of journey to find out, who I really was, who I was going to be, and make big decisions, and ultimately, my wife and I, and we just had that conversation, like, we're not just going to settle and just have this blah marriage and this blah, like, we're either going to go all in with this and we're going to make an amazing life, or we're not. It's like, period. Like, we're not. And we decided to go all in with it. And so then, man, I got reinvigorated with life. That's when I started. You asked about fears. I got real fired up with pushing myself to overcome my fears. and I know we're up against it probably on time, but that's when I launched my Breakthrough at the Beach events, and I was teaching guys what I learned, and I learned things like I had 3 knee surgeries from high school football, college, in my 30s. I was told my knee's bone on bone, yada yada yada. I need a knee replacement. And I met this dude, one of my coaches, and he started telling me stories about, competing in Ironman. So long story short, I just like, man, I'm just going to push the envelope. So since then, I've done multiple Ironmans, fought in an MMA cage fight. I went and trained with Navy SEALs in like a 2-day event with no sleep, and a guy actually died in that event. But what I started doing was like really attacking what my fear was, and trying to learn from that, and apply, how do I apply those lessons in life and my relationships? And that was a time where I learned a lot about success, that success is not as glorious and glamorous, and all these people on Facebook sharing like everything's great. It is not always great. But I used that time of being in a dark period to learn from it, grow from it, document it, and try to help some guys out along the way. And so that was a bad experience where it turned into like probably the greatest time of my life, those 2 or 3 years where I was just like, man, I'm just going to play all in, build this marriage back up, just make everything wonderful. And that's why I learned I didn't want to scale a big business. We kind of adopted the approach, small but mighty, staying lean, staying sustainable, taking what I learned from those down markets. Because if anyone's around me, and my students, I'm always talking about sustainability. Like, you may be making money today, but are you going to make money tomorrow? Are you going to be in business 5 years from now? Are you creating a business that's built to last? And a lot of guys aren't, and that scares me, because I want to create a legacy. I want to leave something to my kids. I want to leave something to different charities and foundations. And I've seen too many people, man, get knocked out of the game. I don't want to get knocked out of the game. I'm hoping you call me back in 5 or 10 years from now on, like Joe Rogan style, Brant Phillips Part 2, 2025 update.
That's a great idea, bro.
And
you just changed it for me, bro.
Yeah.
That was it. That was the one nugget I needed from this episode, bro. Yeah. We're going to do follow-ups. My man.
There you go, man. Put it on the calendar.
My man. Bray, you have an incredible story, man. So inspiring. I cannot believe, the transparency, man. Much appreciated. And wow, you said you trained with Navy SEALs, 2 days, no sleep. That's hardcore, bro.
It's hardcore, man.
I studied Navy SEAL training because I'm fascinated by it. So I tune into Goggins, Marcus Luttrell, all the top Navy SEALs, on social media and whatnot, and dove into Hell Week stories. It's just unbelievable what those guys go through, man. 5 days. They say they average 2 to 4 hours of sleep in 5 days.
It's amazing. To
graduate Hell Week, or to get past Hell Week, is unbelievable what you can push your body to and your mind to.
Yep.
Have you heard of that Andy Frisella program, 75 Hard?
Yeah, I have.
I'm starting that up, bro.
Are you really?
I am.
Good for you, man.
I am. I'm gonna be starting it up soon, tomorrow soon. It's tough, man. It sounds easy, but it's not.
No, it doesn't sound easy.
Oh, I mean, it's 5 steps, right? Drink the gallon, work out twice a day, read 10 pages, diet, and a picture.
Yeah.
I'm trying to work through this gallon a day, man. That's a tough part.
That's the easy part.
If you're used to it.
Yeah.
But what would be the hard part?
Well, okay, so creating time for your workouts, that's going to be hard because you got to do one of those workouts outside. I've thought about it and I just haven't committed to it. You talk about Goggins. I read Goggins last year, January of 2019. And in the full disclosure, so the SEAL Fit event I went through is called Kokoro. and there was 50 something guys who registered for I don't know how many registered, like 50 something showed up, and I didn't make it through the whole way. 13 people made it the whole way. I was the second to last to tap out. I was like number 15. I didn't make it the whole way. I was around the 40-hour mark, and I tapped out. And then one of the guys in my group ended up dying from that. But long story short, like I'm a big believer in that mindset that you learn even from that failure. Man, I learned so much. You take that stuff into your life, your relationships, your business. So you brought up Goggins. Last January, I read Goggins. I read his book, and I mentioned the 3 knee surgeries, that kind of stuff. So, dude, I read what he was doing with all this ultra marathon stuff. So I signed up and ran a 50-mile ultra marathon last April. Dude, honestly, it jacked me up. It jacked me up.
Wait. Did you say 50?
Yeah, I ran 50-mile.
50 miles? Nonstop?
It was at one time.
What the?
Nonstop.
I mean, like you take small break.
Yeah.
Wait. I gotta know about this, man. How long did it take you to do 50 miles?
It took me about 13 hours.
13 hours, bro.
Yeah.
50 miles would probably take me like 4 days. 13 hours, 50 miles. Holy smokes. And what was the purpose of this? Just like, is it for charity or just for like personal accomplishment? Or
Dude, I would literally see something, maybe get inspired, maybe be fearful of it. And I'm like, all right, that means I got to do it. Like I was literally on a mastermind call. These guys it was a business mastermind, but we used to do CrossFit workouts and do all this kind of stuff and just compete. And one of my coaches, I don't even remember the conversation, but basically he cut, I don't know if kids are watching this, but, he was pretty much, I don't remember the conversation. He's like, you guys are a bunch of pussies. He's like, and he pretty much called us out, and the conversation just went all kinds of places. And long story short, before the end of the coaching call, one of the guys was like, damn it, I'll fight in a cage fight or whatever. And he's like, you going to commit to that? And he's like, hell yeah. And I'm like, all right, I joined in. I'm like, I'll fight in a cage fight. I'm not afraid to fight. And a couple of others did. And I'm all about like 90-day goals. Like you make a year goal, 2 years, there's a place for that, but a lot of stuff you just need to condense that time down, just make it happen, right? So long story short, yours truly is the only one who actually executed on it. So within 90 days, I was in a cage fight. I had like no martial arts, MMA fighting experience. So man, I'm telling you, I just went through this period of time where I just do it. I was just like, sign me up.
Getting rocked in the face and everything.
Dude, I got my ass knocked out cold, man. Like knocked out cold, and I wake up and the dude's just pounding on my face. I got up and everything, but
holy
why did I do it?
To tell the story. To tell the story.
I believe in God, and I believe in living life, and I try not to be stupid, but I've learned the most from going through my Ironman. Dude, that 50-mile thing like pushed me hard, dude. Like it pushed me so hard because I didn't train like I should have. But I read Goggins basically ran 100 miles with little no training. I know he's a SEAL, but I'm like, hell, if he can do 100, I can do 50. And I trained. The longest I ran was like 17 miles for my training. And I remember this was basically 3 loop thing. It was like 17 miles, 16 and a half, whatever it was. And you would run 16 and a half miles. That's the starting point again. You can take a break, get something to eat, change your shoes, whatever you want to do. So I hit it and I did pretty good. And I'm like, man, I'm feeling good. I'm going to do this thing. And then I changed my shoes out, put some lube on, get a little bite to eat. Popped in my headphones. I didn't have my headphones on first 16. I'm like, man, I'm going to pop in my headphones. I take off. I'm on mile 17. Dude, I felt great. I'm like, man, I'm going to freaking crush this thing. Mile 18. Oh, shit. 19. Boom. I hit a wall at 20. And I hit a wall hard. And I started just thinking about, Goggins, started thinking about my kids. And I found it very necessary to put myself in those challenges. And like what you're doing, like 75 hard, I respect that, because so many times I want to just quit. And you start thinking about what are you going to say whenever, your daughter or your son asks you, Dad, why'd you quit? When your friends on social media, all that kind of stuff. And so that's why I did, man. Just for the experience, let me learn something new about me, and let's see how I'm going to show up. And I'm not going to lie, it jacked me up, dude. Like my hip I'm getting old, man. So my hip and knee were not the same for a long period of time.
Damn.
But
unbelievable, man. 50 miles. Holy smokes. My man. Brant, what's your message to the people, right? You got the listeners, they're tuned in. They've heard your story. They're super inspired. What's your message to them, man?
Dude, I mean, I think we all you just pursue the calling in your heart, I guess would be my message to people. Is so many people, you brought it up. I mean, people, they have fear. They back down to fear. They worry about benefits. They worry about medical insurance. They worry about, failing in that whatever the quote unquote security comes from a job. I saw my dad lose everything and get laid off time after time. So to me, you're putting yourself in a bad position if you're relying upon someone else rather than going out and just taking control of your destiny. So it would be that. Just pursue the calling in your heart. Something I took from one of the most powerful books I ever read, which is called Wild at Heart, and it was like, find a battle to fight. If you're just showing up at a 9 to 5 or just whatever, filing paperwork, like find a battle to fight. Create an adventure to live. That's why I was getting so inspired by these things I was doing. Like, create adventure in your life. Like, don't just settle for that status quo,
Mm-hmm.
And the last part was find a beauty to love, to rescue, right? So play all in with your spouse, your significant other, your loved ones, your children, and inspire them. Inspire the ones that inspire you. You don't want to be that corporate zombie just walking through wondering what shoulda, woulda, coulda, man. Just like
powerful stuff, brother. Brant, are you currently promoting anything that you'd like to share with the audience?
Man, I'm doing all kinds of stuff. I always have things going on. If people want to reach out and connect, just, I tell people go to brantphillips.com. You'll get plugged into what we're doing. The main thing I'm promoting right now is I wrote a book, a couple of books to do a little promo. My first book was How to Flip a House, and I just wrote it. I don't know why I wrote it, man. People were asking me, can we meet for breakfast, lunch? I started running out of time, and I just got inspired. I wrote a book. It went pretty well. And so then, we talked about how valuable having a sales skill set is, and it is. And I've always been a believer in you lead with value. You educate people, you help people. If you do that enough times, a certain amount are going to come back and want to do business with you. So when I started raising private money and kind of, just getting more involved in that space and understanding more about it, and really seeing how few people really even knew about private mortgage lending, about the opportunity of private lending, I was like, man, there was a big opportunity there to help people just with educating. So I wrote this book. It's called Private Lender Playbook. And this book has done really well, and it's on Amazon, it's on Audible. But what really just happened from masterminding and hanging out with folks, similar minded folks. A friend of mine's in the publishing space, and we collaborated on something that I'm really excited about. What we've done is we've taken my book, the Private Lender Playbook, and we've essentially what's called white labeled. We've white labeled that book. What we're doing is we've reduced it down a little bit, but still I think it's like 150 pages for other real estate investors and entrepreneurs, rather than raising money, pitching deals, trying to sell people. You don't need to do any of that. Like this is an example of a book where we're helping other real estate investors. This is Sherry and Brant Phillips. So we've got individual titles, individual covers for real estate investors, so they can just go hand out their book and market their book to people. You don't pitch anything, you don't sell anything. Say, hey, here's some information. Take a look at it. If it's interests you, give me a call, schedule a call, we'll chat. So this is a very valuable tool to help real estate investors raise money for their deals. We know it's all about deals and dollars, right? If you've got good deal flow coming in, a lot of people have a problem raising money, getting the dollars. So we're trying to help solve that problem for real estate investors. So really excited about that. So if anybody wants information about that, just hit me up. And that's really it, man.
That's super cool, man. Awesome stuff. I love that white label idea where that's just super cool, man. I've never seen anybody do that before. So props to you, man.
Thank you, man. Yeah, it's working well. We've got a group, and we have a coaching program that comes with it. They come in and we help them, in our coaching calls and training and things like that. We're helping them market the book and do small workshops, Zoom meetings, and things like that. So it's going really well. Very, very excited about it, and having a lot of fun with that.
My man. Well, Brant, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you here on the show, man. I hope you enjoyed. And thank you so much for sharing, brother. I know the audience is fired up and inspired. And, man, thanks to you, we're going to be doing the part 2. It's coming.
All right, man.
Brant Phillips part 2 coming in the future, man. Enjoy the rest of your day, brother. Take care. All the best.